They were called the tribal class. Built for gunnery duels, designed to overpower enemy destroyers, and forged in the shadow of rising global war, these ships would fight from the Arctic ice to the Mediterranean sun, from the Atlantic convoy routes to the shores of Normandy. Some would be shattered by bombs. Some would earn more battle honors than ships twice their size. In this compilation, we take an in-depth look at some of the most famous tribal-class destroyers ever to sail. Among the first of these powerful new destroyers was a ship named after a warrior people. This is the story of HMS Zulu. The name Zulu had already earned its place in Royal Navy legend. The first Zulu, a tribal-class destroyer launched in 1909, was battered in the First World War, torn apart by a mine, and later fused with the remains of another ship to form the improbable hybrid destroyer Zubian. From this strange rebirth, the name carried a sense of resilience, defiance, and luck. When a new generation of tribal-class destroyers was ordered in the 1930s, the Admiralty chose to resurrect the name. This second Zulu, sleeker and more powerful than her predecessor, slid into the water in September 1937. Unlike most of her kind, she was launched already fitted with boilers and funnels, giving her a distinctive silhouette from day one. Among her crew, this quirk became a symbol. Zulu was different, Zulu was special. When Zulu was commissioned, Europe was teetering toward catastrophe. Tensions were rising in the Mediterranean, Germany was rearming, and Japan was already waging brutal war in China. Zulu joined the fleet as one of the most advanced destroyers afloat, part of the new tribal class built to be fast, heavily armed, and capable of taking on enemy destroyers head-to-head. With her four twin 4.7-inch guns, high speed, and modern fire control equipment, she was formidable for her size. She joined her sisters in Malta, the beating heart of the Royal Navy's Mediterranean presence. Her early months were spent on exercises and patrols, familiarization cruises in a sea that had been the stage for empires since antiquity. But beneath the routine, there was tension. The men aboard knew that war was coming, and when it did, their new ship would be among the first to be tested. When war erupted in September 1939, HMS Zulu was quickly drawn into the Royal Navy's grueling tasks, escorting convoys, hunting U-boats, and enforcing the blockade that was Britain's lifeline. Life on escort duty was harsh. The Atlantic was grey and merciless, the threat of submarine attack constant. Zulu, with her speed, often had to sprint ahead to chase sonar contacts, only to return to station hours later, her crew wet, exhausted, but always alert. There was no glamour in this early war service, only the grind of keeping convoys safe. Yet these missions were vital, for without supplies Britain could not endure. Zulu's crew learned discipline and resilience. They became hardened to long watches, to the spray freezing on their faces, to the endless hours of listening for the telltale echo of a submarine. By 1941, Zulu was recalled for a major refit. The lessons of war had been brutal, air power and submarines were deadlier than anyone had imagined. To keep up, Zulu received radar, high-frequency direction-finding equipment, and extra anti-aircraft guns. When she re-emerged from the yards, she was leaner, deadlier, and ready for the Mediterranean once more. The Mediterranean in 1942 was one of the most dangerous seas in the world. Axis aircraft ruled the skies, Italian and German ships prowled the coasts, and Allied convoys carrying supplies to Malta were relentlessly attacked. It was here that Zulu found her greatest tests. She joined Force H at Gibraltar, operating alongside cruisers and carriers to strike at Axis convoys supplying Rommel's Afrika Corps. Zulu's guns thundered against enemy aircraft, her crew straining as bombs splashed into the sea around them. On convoy escort runs, she was often the shield between merchant ships and waves of Stuka dive bombers. The men of Zulu came to know the terrifying wail of the German bomber sirens, the sudden scream from the clouds before the world erupted in fire and spray. The siege of Malta dominated this period. The island's survival was essential to Allied strategy, and convoys bound for Malta suffered savage losses. Zulu's crew escorted freighters through seas alive with danger, braving torpedoes, bombs, and mines. Every crossing felt like rolling dice with death. In September 1942, HMS Zulu took part in one of her most daring missions. Alongside her sister destroyer HMS Sikh, she was ordered to support a commando raid against Tobruk, the heavily fortified Libyan port held by Axis forces. The plan was audacious: storm the harbor, land troops, destroy facilities, and cripple Axis supply lines. On the night of the 13th of September, Zulu and Sikh closed the coast under cover of darkness. The sea was calm, the stars above bright, and tension hung thick across the decks. Every man knew this was risky. As dawn broke, the plan unraveled. Sikh came under ferocious coastal artillery fire and was soon crippled, her hull torn open, fires raging. Zulu fought desperately to cover her sister. She trained her guns on shore batteries, blasting away even as shells straddled her own decks. She tried to haul Sikh clear, but the damage was too great. Sikh sank in shallow waters, her crew taken prisoner or killed. Zulu had no choice but to retreat, smoke pouring from her funnels as she raced for open sea. But the danger was not over. On the 14th of September, 1942, Zulu was south of Crete, limping away from Tobruk after the disaster. Her speed was reduced, her crew weary from the long night. In the sky above, the enemy found her. Waves of German dive bombers swooped down, shrieking through the clouds. Zulu's gunners fired furiously, their Oerlikons and pom-poms hammering at the sky, tracers stitching upwards. One aircraft fell burning into the sea, but others pressed home their attacks. Bombs splashed perilously close, geysers of water rocking the destroyer. Then came the fatal strike. A bomb slammed into Zulu's stern, tearing away her rudder and engines. The blast shook the entire ship, throwing men to the deck. Fires roared, compartments flooded, and power failed. Zulu was crippled. Her crew fought with courage, manning pumps, tending to the wounded, and still firing at the attackers. But it was hopeless. She could no longer maneuver, and more aircraft circled overhead. The order was given to abandon ship. One by one, men scrambled into the sea, clinging to rafts and wreckage as their beloved ship burned. Rescue came from HMS Crew, another destroyer that braved the danger zone to haul survivors aboard. For many, it was a narrow escape. Oil slicks burned on the water, and enemy planes strafed the survivors. Zulu's proud silhouette settled into the sea. The destroyer that had fought across the Atlantic, guarded Malta's lifeline, and dueled with shore batteries at Tobruk slipped beneath the waves, leaving only smoke and wreckage to mark her passing. HMS Zulu's story is one of courage, sacrifice, and duty. She was in service for just 4 years, but in that short span she embodied the struggle of the Royal Navy in World War II, the endless grind of escort work, the adaptation to new threats, the defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. Her loss was bitter, but her crew's survival, pulled from the sea under fire, was a testament to their determination and to the comradeship of the destroyer service. Among her men, Zulu was remembered not just as a warship, but as a living presence, a protector, a home, and in the end, a grave. The name Zulu did not fade. Like her predecessor, whose shattered hull had been reborn as Zubian, the spirit of Zulu endures in Royal Navy tradition. She was a destroyer, yes, but also a symbol of endurance, of boldness, and of the price paid to hold the seas. But the tribal story was never about just one ship. Some earned their reputation through steady, relentless service across the entire war. She fought in Norway, operated in the Mediterranean, and served in Atlantic and Arctic waters. Damaged more than once, repaired, and returned to duty. By 1945, she had accumulated an impressive list of battle honors and a record of consistent frontline service. This is the story of HMS Nubian. HMS Nubian was named after a proud and ancient people. fierce warriors from the lands of the Nile. And like her namesake, HMS Nubian would earn her place in history through courage, endurance, and unshakable determination. HMS Nubian was one of the Royal Navy's tribal-class destroyers, a class built not merely for speed and escort duty, but for dominance. The tribals were larger, faster, and more heavily armed than any destroyers the Royal Navy had ever sent to sea. The tribals bristled with 8 4.7-inch mounts, broadside firepower to rival small cruisers. Built by Thornycroft and Company at Southampton in August 1936, launched in December 1937, and commissioned in December 1938. She joined the fleet in a tense world, one where peace was already beginning to crack. When war came in September 1939, HMS Nubian was ready. Her first taste of combat came in the frigid waters of Norway, in the spring of 1940. The Norwegian campaign was brutal, naval operations through fjords where mountains echoed with gunfire, and the Luftwaffe ruled the skies. Nubian escorted troopships, guarded convoys, and engaged enemy aircraft again and again. Her gunners learned quickly, accuracy, discipline, and calm under pressure were the only ways to survive. By summer, she was ordered south, to the Mediterranean. There, she joined the 14th Destroyer Flotilla at Alexandria, the Royal Navy's spearhead against the Axis in North Africa. She escorted convoys to Malta, bombarded Axis positions along the Libyan coast, and hunted Italian supply ships. In March 1941, she was at Cape Matapan, one of the Royal Navy's great victories of the war. As Admiral Cunningham's fleet trapped the Italian Navy, Nubian joined the destroyer screen that attacked crippled enemy cruisers under cover of darkness. Her guns roared into the night as British torpedoes struck home. When dawn came, 3 Italian heavy cruisers and 2 destroyers lay wrecked. The triumph of Matapan was soon followed by tragedy. Only weeks later, in April and May of 1941, HMS Nubian was sent to assist in the desperate evacuation of Allied troops, first from Greece, then from Crete. The Luftwaffe dominated the skies, and every daylight movement meant another barrage of bombs. During the evacuation of Crete, Nubian was constantly under fire. Her 4.7-inch guns barked skyward as German dive bombers, the dreaded Stukas, swooped down again and again. The destroyer maneuvered furiously, her decks shuddering under near misses and shrapnel bursts. On the night of May 26, disaster struck. A near miss exploded close astern, ripping away her entire rear section, her steering gear, depth charges, and after gun mounts were obliterated in a single, devastating blast. 7 men were killed, and many others wounded. The ship was half destroyed, but she refused to die. Her crew, exhausted and smoke-stained, fought through the night to save their ship, sealing compartments, rigging pumps, and counter-flooding to keep her afloat. Against all odds, they succeeded. Badly crippled, Nubian was towed back to Alexandria. There, she was made seaworthy enough for a long, perilous voyage across the Indian Ocean to Bombay. It was an extraordinary journey for a wounded destroyer, one that tested both her crew and her construction to their limits. In Bombay, shipwrights set to work building her an entirely new stern, stronger and more modern than before. More than a year later, in 1942, Nubian rejoined the Mediterranean fleet. She was whole again, scarred but reborn, and once more ready for battle. The war in the Mediterranean still raged fiercely. Malta remained under siege, and convoys fought their way through constant attacks from Axis aircraft, submarines, and surface ships. Nubian was back in the thick of it, escorting supply runs, bombarding enemy coastal positions, and striking at Axis shipping off Sfax, Tunisia, and along the Libyan coast. Every one of these battles marked months of relentless struggle, long nights, rough seas, and the never-ending thunder of bombs. But Nubian's crew, now veterans hardened by fire and loss, never wavered. In 1943, the tide of war had turned. The Allies struck at Sicily, and Nubian was there once more, bombarding shore positions, screening landing craft, and driving off attacking aircraft with deadly precision. Soon after, came Salerno, another ferocious landing under air attack and heavy coastal fire. Later that year, Nubian steamed west to help secure the surrender of small Italian-held islands, including Linosa, a symbolic but deeply satisfying moment for her crew. The once mighty Italian fleet was finished, and Nubian had played her part in bringing about its end. By 1944, the Mediterranean War was largely won, but Nubian service was not over. She joined operations in northern waters, escorting convoys in freezing seas and taking part in fleet operations. From the frozen north to the burning south, few ships could claim such range or endurance. In 1945, Nubian joined the Royal Navy's Eastern Fleet in the Indian Ocean, operating off Ceylon, Sumatra, and the Nicobar Islands. The war was reaching its final chapter, and though the great fleet battles were over, her duty continued, screening carriers, bombarding coastal targets, and standing watch until victory came. When the guns finally fell silent, HMS Nubian had served in nearly every major theater of the Second World War. From Norway to Crete, from Libya to the Arctic, she had fought for 6 relentless years and carried the white ensign proudly in every engagement. Her record was unmatched among destroyers of her class. 12 battle honors. It was an extraordinary accomplishment, a testament to her crew's endurance, her builder's skill, and her nation's prowess. After the war, Nubian returned to Britain. She was placed in reserve in 1946, still a proud yet aging veteran. In June 1949, she was sold. Her hull was broken up at Newport. It was a quiet end for a ship that had survived so much, but her name endured. For the men who served aboard her, whether the young sailors barely out of their teens, learning their trade in the engine rooms, or the older, battle-hardened gunners facing the roar of combat and the unpredictability of the sea, Nubian was far more than just a ship. Her officers, a mix of seasoned veterans and rising leaders, guided her through storms and battle, teaching lessons of courage, skill, and discipline. Together, they became a family, bound by shared duty and the challenges of life at sea. She was home. She was hope. She was where youth and experience met, each man relying on the other, every life intertwined with the steel and steam of the destroyer. The tribal class was built to dominate enemy destroyers. Few demonstrated that purpose more clearly than the next ship. From Arctic convoys to fierce surface actions, she became known for aggression and resilience under fire. This is the story of HMS Tartar. In 1936, as Europe edged toward war, the Royal Navy began modernizing its fleet. Among the new vessels was HMS Tartar, a tribal-class destroyer built by Swan Hunter and Wigham Richardson at Wallsend. Launched in October 1937 and commissioned in March 1939, Tartar was designed as a flotilla leader, equipped for speed, firepower, and coordination with other ships. She was built to lead, to fight, and to endure the harshest conditions the sea could offer. Her early months were devoted to trials, exercises, and rigorous training. The crew, a mix of seasoned sailors and young recruits, learned the rhythms of the ship, how to handle her in storms, and how to operate her advanced weapons and communications. Every drill, every maneuver, every emergency response was preparation for the challenges of war. Assigned to the 2nd Tribal Destroyer Flotilla of the Home Fleet, Tartar began patrols in the North Sea. Even in peace, these waters were unforgiving, with war looming, every mission carried risk. In these early days, Tartar earned her first reputation, not just as a machine of war, but as a symbol of determination, resilience, and honor. The sailors forged bonds of trust and discipline that would carry them through the years of conflict to come. With the outbreak of World War II in September 1939, HMS Tartar was immediately called to active service. She patrolled the North Sea, escorted convoys, and maintained vigilance against the constant threat of German submarines and surface raiders. Life aboard was demanding. Icy winds swept across the decks, waves battered the hull, and the tension of potential enemy encounters never abated. Every sailor knew that a single mistake could cost lives, and yet they performed their duties with unwavering dedication. During these early months of the war, Tartar honed her skills in escorting merchant vessels through hostile waters. Convoys were lifelines, carrying food, ammunition, and equipment essential to Britain's survival. Tartar's presence offered reassurance to the ships she protected, and her crew's discipline and readiness ensured they could respond to any attack at a moment's notice. In June 1941, Tartar intercepted the German weather ship Lauenburg. A daring boarding party seized valuable intelligence and ensured the vessel could not return to enemy hands. This mission highlighted the destroyer's dual role as both hunter and guardian, demonstrating the courage and precision of her crew. Beyond combat, Tartar performed rescue operations and patrols, safeguarding countless lives while reinforcing her reputation as a reliable and formidable force of the Royal Navy. The harsh conditions of the North Sea became a proving ground. Storms raged for days, ice formed on the deck and superstructure, and sleep was often scarce. Yet the crew endured, united by purpose and training. It was during these early patrols that Tartar sailors forged the experience and resilience that would sustain them in the Arctic, the Mediterranean, and across every theater of war in which the destroyer would serve. In late 1941, HMS Tartar faced one of her most grueling assignments, escorting Arctic convoys to the Soviet Union. These voyages carried tanks, ammunition, and essential supplies that would support the Soviet war effort against Germany. The Arctic seas were among the most hostile in the world. Icy waters, freezing winds, and near-constant storms tested both ship and crew to their limits. Each convoy was a gauntlet. German U-boats prowled beneath the waves, seeking to sink Allied shipping, while aircraft from occupied Norway launched relentless attacks from above. Surface raiders and mines added further danger. Tartar's speed, firepower, and advanced radar made her an indispensable guardian, but success required skill, vigilance, and unwavering courage from her crew. The sailors endured bitter cold, long nights of near-total darkness, and the ever-present threat of sudden attack. Decks became slick with ice, machinery froze, and fatigue weighed heavily, yet discipline never faltered. Every watch, every maneuver, every coordinated response to threat demonstrated the professionalism that defined Tartar and her flotilla. Despite the hazards, the destroyer and her crew ensured that vital supplies reached ports in the Soviet Union. Convoys survived storms and enemy action, thanks to careful navigation, rapid decision-making, and the seamless coordination between Tartar, other escorts, and the merchant ships they protected. These Arctic missions forged a reputation for resilience and tenacity. The sailors who endured them carried with them not only the experience of survival under extreme conditions, but also a sense of pride and purpose. Tartar's service in the Arctic would remain a defining chapter in her wartime career, highlighting the bravery and dedication of all who served aboard her. In 1942, HMS Tartar was reassigned to the Mediterranean, a theater of war where danger came not only from the sea but from the skies. The island of Malta, under siege and vital to Allied control of the Mediterranean, depended on convoys bringing food, ammunition, and reinforcements. Tartar was tasked with escorting these convoys through waters patrolled by Axis submarines, aircraft, and surface vessels, facing threats at every turn. The defining mission came with Operation Pedestal, a daring convoy effort to deliver crucial supplies to Malta. The journey was relentless. Enemy bombers rained down from the sky, submarines lurked beneath the waves, and fast attack craft threatened the convoy from multiple directions. Amid this chaos, Tartar's speed and agility were vital, allowing her to maneuver between the transports and the enemy, intercept attacks, and protect the vulnerable cargo ships. During the operation, Tartar performed one of her most heroic actions: rescuing the crew of HMS Foresight. The destroyer had been heavily damaged in combat, its survival uncertain. Tartar's crew moved swiftly to evacuate the sailors, ensuring no lives were lost, and then scuttled the crippled vessel to prevent capture by the enemy. Throughout Operation Pedestal, Tartar demonstrated both tactical skill and courage. Her gunners engaged attacking aircraft with relentless precision, while her bridge crew coordinated movements to shield the convoy. Each decision carried the weight of responsibility for hundreds of lives and the strategic importance of Malta itself. By the end of the operation, supplies had reached the island, sustaining its defense and boosting Allied morale. Tartar's role was lauded, reflecting not just the capabilities of the ship, but the discipline, determination, and bravery of her crew. The Mediterranean had tested her in new ways, proving that HMS Tartar could endure danger from every direction and emerge victorious. Later in 1942, HMS Tartar joined the Allied forces for Operation Torch, the ambitious invasion of French North Africa. This campaign marked a crucial step in opening a new front against Axis powers and relieving pressure on the Eastern Front. Tartar's role was multifaceted. She provided naval gunfire support for landing craft, escorted convoys of troops and supplies, and patrolled the surrounding waters to intercept any enemy vessels that threatened the operation. The waters off North Africa presented new challenges. Coastal defenses were heavily fortified, and German and Vichy French forces were determined to repel the landings. Tartar's crew had to execute precise maneuvers under the constant threat of shore batteries and air attack. The destroyer's guns fired relentlessly, targeting enemy positions to protect the troops landing on the beaches, while her crew coordinated with other ships to maintain a defensive screen around the invasion force. Tartar's experience from Arctic convoys and Mediterranean operations proved invaluable. Her sailors were seasoned in navigating under fire, responding to sudden attacks, and keeping the ship operational under pressure. Every torpedo fired, every shell launched, and every evasive maneuver contributed to the operation's success, demonstrating the synergy of crew and vessel. By the end of the landings, the Allies had secured a foothold in North Africa. Operation Torch reinforced HMS Tartar's reputation as a ship capable of meeting any challenge, reflecting the skill, discipline, and unyielding spirit of her crew. In June 1944, as the Allies prepared for the monumental invasion of Normandy, HMS Tartar engaged in a critical operation off the coast of Barfla. Alongside HMS Ashanti, she faced the German destroyer ZH-1, a skilled and determined adversary. The battle required exceptional coordination, precision, and courage, as both sides maneuvered at high speed through the channel's treacherous waters. Tartar's crew executed torpedo attacks with meticulous timing, taking advantage of the ship's speed and agility. Every maneuver was calculated, every decision on the bridge carried immense weight. ZH-1 returned fire with ferocity, but Tartar's training, experience, and coordination with Ashanti proved decisive. Eventually, the German destroyer was sunk, eliminating a threat to Allied operations and demonstrating the effectiveness of Royal Navy destroyer tactics. For HMS Tartar, it was a defining moment that showcased her lethal capabilities and the cohesion of her crew under fire. Their actions exemplified the qualities that had become synonymous with the destroyer: courage, precision, and unwavering dedication to duty. On the 6th of June, 1944, HMS Tartar took her place among the vast Allied fleet gathering off the coast of Normandy. The D-Day landings were a monumental operation, the largest amphibious assault in history, and Tartar's role was both vital and perilous. She was tasked with providing naval gunfire support for the troops storming the beaches, targeting German fortifications, artillery positions, and defensive strongpoints that threatened the landing craft and soldiers. As the first waves approached the shore, Tartar's gunners worked tirelessly. Every shell fired had to be precise, protecting the men below while avoiding friendly casualties. Her crew maintained constant vigilance, scanning the skies and seas for enemy aircraft, submarines, and surface vessels. The tension was palpable. A single misstep could imperil the operation. Yet, the sailors had been tempered by years of service in the harshest conditions, and their discipline never faltered. Tartar also escorted convoys carrying reinforcements and supplies to the beaches, ensuring that the invasion force remained supported despite relentless German resistance. Her speed and maneuverability allowed her to respond to threats quickly, whether it was intercepting enemy vessels or dodging artillery fire. Every successful mission reinforced the trust between ship and crew, and between the sailors and the soldiers they protected. Through storm, smoke, and chaos, HMS Tartar proved herself once again as a guardian of the fleet and a protector of lives. Her actions during Normandy contributed directly to the success of the invasion, enabling the Allies to establish a critical foothold in Western Europe. For her crew, the operation was the culmination of years of training, sacrifice, and courage, a defining chapter in both their lives and the ship's storied service. After the Normandy landings, HMS Tartar continued to serve with distinction, participating in operations across multiple theaters as the Allies pressed their advantage. From the waters of the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean and beyond, she escorted convoys, provided fire support, and patrolled strategic shipping lanes, adapting seamlessly to each new challenge. The ship's resilience and versatility were matched only by the dedication of her crew, who faced each mission with skill, courage, and unwavering resolve. From Arctic darkness to the heat of the Mediterranean, from long convoy escorts to coastal bombardments, the tribal class showed that power is not measured by size alone. It is measured by discipline, by skill, and by the crews who stayed at their guns when battle closed in around them. Thank you for watching this in-depth look at some of the tribal class destroyers. If you enjoyed this compilation, consider subscribing to Ships of War for more stories of steel, endurance, and the ships that shaped naval history. From the gun decks to the bridge, every story we tell honors those who served. If this tale made you feel the salt and steel of history, give it a like, and if you're not yet part of our channel's convoy, subscribe and join the ranks. More powerful stories await.